Hello everyone, welcome back. I'm on a walk today through some beautiful woods. Haven't been here for a very long time and it's quite overgrown, but I'm addressing some of you who don't like my monologue style of videos where I sit in front of the camera. So I thought we'd have a bit of variety today. And as I feel I needed a bit of movement and to get out of the house, although I have just been away for the weekend, I just thought, yeah, I'll come and do a little talky video in the woods today. We're moving away from the traffic sounds, hopefully. Yeah, so these woods, I haven't been here for a few years, but I'm intending to walk to my beautiful favourite local oak tree. I do love trees, and I feel today I want to get some wisdom off that lovely oak. So yeah, a little stroll through the woods. And I thought today what I want to talk about is my financial strategy. Again, I think maybe I have misdirected my intention on this channel for some of you. And my way is blocked by a tree trunk. We'll climb over that. Yeah, I think I might have used the words frugal, simple living a few times on this channel. And maybe the fact that I've mentioned frugal, a lot of people are coming to the video and the chat from the frugal living sort of arena, if you like. And the thing I've learned is that there is a frugal spectrum, if you like. Oh, this bridge is new. A footbridge. So overgrown, honestly, hardly recognise these woods. They were managed really well by sort of an eco movement, but I know over the last few years they moved on. I'm not really sure who's managing the woods now. We'll press on. I can tell I really need to up my fitness and cry out a path. I can see my beautiful oak, but I hardly recognise the area. It's a few years since I've been here and it's so overgrown. But in amongst all there is my very old oak. So we're going to attempt to get through. There he is. There she is. I've balanced my phone on a little stand, but I'm not quite sure how stable it's gonna be, but we'll give it a go. Yeah, back to this frugal word. I might have misled some people here, although I stand by the fact that I think I am on this frugal spectrum, if you like, although not as frugal as some of you, many of you in fact, because when I shared my budget on that video, many of you were saying I am a big spender. Now I guess it's relative, and a lot of people who perhaps don't visit this channel would view my spend, which I worked out on my budget sheet, to be around about £20,000 per year. Bearing in mind, as a bit of context, in case this is the very first video you've ever seen of mine, I am Julia, by the way. I'm 59 years of age and I retired at the age of 56. I had a plan 10 years in place prior to retiring where I manifested being able to finish work in the corporate world. That was my primary goal. At the age of 45, I was burnt out and I knew I didn't want to keep going in my corporate job, and I recognised in myself that whilst my job was really well paid and I had great bonuses and perks, I was spending money on things that weren't really bringing me happiness. You know, the bigger and better house, the gadgets, the luxury holidays were lovely, but underneath it all, that being plugged into this corporate system and never feeling quite good enough was really affecting my mental health. So I knew I wanted to come out of the corporate world, and I didn't want a boss. A few things happened to sort of change the plans slightly, not least COVID, breast cancer diagnosis, and all the other things that have happened in the over the last 6 years really. But I did have an NHS pension because I was a nurse for 15 years, and I knew I could access that at the age of 55. So 55 became my goal, where I was going to leave the corporate world. And I knew to enable me to do that, I was going to have to simplify my life. So I downsized my house and obviously paid off a big chunk of the mortgage at that point. Life changed. I married again. We both had houses. We moved into one house after we got married, and we both were on this goal of early retirement. So the mortgage that we had left, we paid off. Since that time, of course, over the last 6 months, that marriage has ended, and I am now single again. And my mother, who has dementia, has gone into care. And since the separation, I am living at my mother's now. My mother's house is vacant. I was back and forth looking after it anyway. And the marital home is in the process of being sold. And once it's sold, I will have money to potentially buy another house if I wish. But at the moment, I'm leaving things very much fluid. And I don't want to buy a house. I'm quite happy while I'm at my mother's to just take stock of life. A lot has happened in the last few years. But back to the budget. The budget I shared last week was based on my living expenses as they were, I suppose, when I was married, my food budget, household bills, etc. And I worked out, I also run a Roma home camper van, so there is all the tax, road insurance, servicing and blah, blah, blah that goes with that. I also have an elderly dog who is now diabetic. She's not insured, so again, that's a cost. So the budget, if you're interested, again, I'll put the card there. You just click on it. It'll take you to that video. I itemise my living costs or my budget. And it worked out to, my costs were 20,000 a year. That's taken into account all my vet bills, car, the Roma home, camper van costs, insurances, etc. A food budget, which, yeah, we'll come back to the food budget, and a private medication that I pay for. We'll come back to that as well. I itemised all of these amounts, plus because I run a couple of social media channels, I do have ongoing bills for things like hosting my website and editing tools, etc. So I worked it out that my living costs, if I want to maintain the lifestyle I'm currently in, is £20,000 a year. Now, my income is basically an NHS pension and social media, which together come at about 900 a month. So there is a disparity between my living costs and my income. However, some of you are so alarmed. I'm being told that I'm heading for financial ruin. Now, I don't want to push back on this because I know some of you might have just watched that video, you don't know the context, and that's why I'm doing yet another video. The context is, this is a strategy. This isn't something I just stopped my job and I'm living, you know, wild abandon. It's a strategy. It's a strategy I had in mind when I was 45. It came to fruition at the age of 56. It was a year after I could have started my pension. And that year was mainly because I was a bit fearful, like many in the comments. I didn't think I'd have enough money. So I didn't want to, I'd left the corporate life, but I had sort of minimum wage jobs. But they were taking up a lot of my time. And I thought my main goal was to create more income for myself. And while I was doing those minimum wage jobs, it left very little time for me to build my social media. So that's a little bit of background. Added to that, of course, I do have savings. I've always alluded to that on every video I've done, that I top up my living costs with a gap in my income with savings. Now, I've never told you what my savings pot is, nor do I intend to. I don't think it really helps anyone. But some of you are nevertheless predicting financial ruin for me, even though you don't know what's in my savings pot. My savings pot was part of that plan. At the age of 45, I knew I wanted to be out of work. I did start saving bonuses. When I was diagnosed with cancer, I had a critical illness payment, which went into that. And I also have another pension pot from my sales career, which I'm not touching for now. And a lot of you want to know why. Well, the fact is, it's more tax efficient for me to spend my savings. That's what they were for. This is what's called a bridging period. And some wise person in one of the comments on that budgeting video said, you're in your go-go years. I'd never heard that, and I had to look into that, and it is a thing. These are going to be my most expensive retirement years. While I'm young and fit and relatively young, fit enough to enjoy life. I want to enjoy life. I want to travel. I love my camper van. I want to do more travel. I'm limited slightly because of my dog at the moment, but it is my intention to go to Europe and explore, especially Central Europe. I love Central Europe. Those are my choices, and they're not everyone's. I accept that. I have a savings pot, I have a pension pot. It is more tax efficient for me to use my savings at the moment to bridge a gap. The pension pot is there. Added to that, my other part of my strategy is to increase my income from social media, which thankfully now I'm breathing life into this channel again, and because of all the wonderful comments and reactions these videos are getting, that's helping me grow. It's doing really well, and long may that continue. So that is part of my strategy to bridge the gap between my current living costs and my income. So I'm not reckless, okay? And I'm not suggesting everyone should do this. And I've said from the start, I'm not offering financial advice. This is my strategy. I'm sharing it because I believe there's many people in my position who are teetering on retiring early and are a little scared, nervous. They're listening to the headlines. You know, no, you need 32,000 a year as a single person to have a moderate lifestyle. And I've proven for many of you, too generous living costs, I'm still 10,000 below that moderate income. But the bigger part of all of this, which many of you have not picked up on, particularly the people who are being quite hostile, dare I say, telling me I'm reckless, I'm heading for financial ruin, and have I thought of cutting this out, and why don't I do that? I could. The main thing that everyone has missed on my budget, if you go back and look at my budget, there are very few fixed costs in my budget. I've budgeted for bills based on the house that I lived in previously and what we shared bills wise. My food budget is equally based on what we had as a couple. My camper van, my dog, they're all costs I choose. If I was becoming anywhere near end of my savings, I could stop a lot of these costs tomorrow. I don't have to have that budget for food. I can live frugally, dare I say it. I can cut my food budget tomorrow. I could sell my camper van. That would cut off a load of those costs. Next June, a year from now, I get my free bus pass. I wouldn't need to run a car, particularly if I didn't want to. My dog, well, yeah, I could choose not to have her treated. I'm not that kind of person. She's my beautiful girl, and I will keep her as long as I feasibly can whilst she still has quality of life. my costs for social media are things I'm using to generate income. But I could cancel them all tomorrow. I could cancel my phone bill. I could, you know, the majority of the costs in my budget could be cut tomorrow. They're not, I've got to sell a house to do it. They're literally things I can stop tomorrow. And so many of you miss that. You just cut in with, you're living beyond your means, you're reckless, have you thought of this, have you thought of that? So regarding the food budget, it is a generous amount, but I like to have a choice. There's certain items of food I like to be. Somebody has come in and said, well, you're on a weight loss medication and look at your food bill, it's no wonder. You know, all these judgments. I can only think it's people's own anxieties over finances they're projecting on me, or something else, I don't know. Like a lot of the comments I will say are well-meaning and perfectly respectful, no problem. But it's the angry ones of ordering me, bossiness. You've missed the point. I have a strategy. I have a financial strategy. I've been living my financial strategy for the past 3 years. I'm kind of living it. My situation has changed since Christmas, but actually it's costing me less. I'm living at my mother's house now. I'm still budgeting for the costs I had when I had a house, because there will come a point, probably, when I will buy a house. And those costs will be budgeted for. I don't have to spend all that I've budgeted for. Do you see that? I can actually save if I wanted to. My weight loss medication, I don't want to defend it. I've chosen it. I am an educated person. I know why I'm taking it. It's not vanity. I had my reasons, and they were medical reasons. The NHS at the moment is not at a stage where it can fund that for everyone. It's a shame, but it's my choice, okay? I don't have to order another bottle if I don't want to. And then there we are, that's £300 a month I could save. I can do it tomorrow, like that. I'm choosing to spend it because it's what I want to do with my life. And that's what I'm trying to promote on this channel. You make a decision. If you want to retire early, you make a decision on what you can live without, what you can't. Now, for me, there's a lot of things I can live without that I was consuming when I was in a well-paid job. My multiple holidays abroad, I had a company car, so I didn't particularly have it, but I did run a camper van as well. Clothes, expensive clothes shops, you know, that's I've chosen not to spend things. I'm spending more intentionally. So I think instead of the word frugal from now on, I am going to continue with simple living, because I do believe I live a simple life. Some of you may disagree, but it is, like I said, a deliberate strategy. I've deliberately not said what's in savings, and already people are predicting my downfall. I have said in the past, I love watching people who live frugally, and I mean genuinely frugally. I love the Liberation Channel. I like watching people doing alternative lifestyles and people who want to be out of the system, and I sympathise so much. I get it, I do. I'm not ready to get out of the system completely at the moment. I get why you're doing it, and I do have a lot of sympathy with the world we're living in now, you know, and it is corrupt. Parts of it are so corrupt, and we are on this treadmill, and where's it going to end? This consume all, you know, that's not enough, now you need to upgrade, you need this one. And I suppose it's late capitalism, isn't it? I am interested in that. I'm interested when I spent a month earlier this year in Budapest. Now I would be heartbroken if I'd not been able to spend some money on that. It was fairly low cost. The apartment, I think, was £1,000 for a month. It was meant to be for me and my husband. I ended up going on my own. I spent £1,000 on my apartment in the centre of Budapest, right next to St. Stephen's Basilica, for a whole month. My flights were something like £70 each way. And while I was there, my food was much less than it is here in the UK. And the transport there was so, I think I spent £30 on a travel card for the whole month, and that gave me access to unlimited trams, the metro system. And that's what I loved about Budapest, and that's why I'm so interested in the post-communist countries, the way the infrastructure is so good. And I know there's a lot of unhappiness in those countries, and again, they've got the same issues with governments, I know. But I do think we're heading for disaster with the way the country's going, with this ever increasing need for more, and people are not looking at what's making them happy. I have done that work. I know what makes me happy. I know how I feel in regards to my health now than I did even a few years ago. And someone's commented, you look a lot better than you did then. I do. A lot of it is, a relief. I'm not working anymore. I'm enjoying my retirement. It took me a few years to start enjoying my retirement, to let go of the guilt of, oh God, I'm not earning in the big world anymore. I've let go of that. And my GLP-1 medication has helped. Now, I'm not promoting it. I'm not suggesting anyone else goes on it, far from it. But equally, I feel I've got to defend my own choices. I'm happy to do it to a point if people are respectful and are interested to know more. But just this, you're eating too much, and if you did follow this diet, you wouldn't. I have spent years yo-yo dieting. I have tried every diet in the book, believe me. Keto, you name it. For me, this medication I didn't do for weight loss. That wasn't my primary goal. Gone into that in the past. I'm not going to go through it again. But the weight loss was a happy side effect. And of course, with the weight loss comes all the other benefits. My blood pressure's down, my blood sugar. I knew all about healthy eating. I knew what I should be doing. I just couldn't. The medication has enabled me to get a much better relationship with food again. I'm not going to talk about that anymore. What my point is, my budget is my choice of living. I think I could probably add a few more grand to it, to my budget, my 20 grand budget. I think a few more grand would enable me to do more. Like last year we did a rail holiday using the global, what's it called? For the life of me, I'll have to put it on the text. I can't remember what it was called. You pay a price and then you get unlimited travel within Europe, within reason. Love that. At the moment, because of Teddy, I'm limited, but I'm so curious to explore, particularly Central Europe. I fell in love with Budapest and Slovakia when we were in Slovakia. Loved it. And everything, the infrastructure, the people, the food, loved it. So whilst people are, one person in particular was having a go at me for not living as frugally as he's able to. I admire your lifestyle, I truly do, and I would never dream of telling you you're not living. You have found the way that you want to be, but that doesn't mean that we all want to live that way. I could, if I needed to, like I said, I can wipe out majority of my costs. I have no debt. Again, that was a strategy. Well, I haven't had debt since I was in my 20s. I did when I was in my 20s, do the usual thing. In the big world, getting married, didn't have enough money for this, that and the other, took out credit cards, store cards, and, quickly realised that that was a muck's game. So I got out of debt in that sense, consumer debt, a long time ago. And I've always paid for things because I've been fortunate to get the jobs. I'm not going to be apologetic about it. I'm really proud of where I am now. I've also talked about my relationship history, and here's another thing that somebody in the comments said that was, oh my God, it like a light went on. Here I am, all apologising almost. Yes, I'm so sorry, I've had 3 marriages that have failed. And somebody in the comments said, I doubt anyone would say anything. I've had 5 relationships. I've never married, but it's because I got married. That's the thing. People don't like the fact that I got married. If I'd have just said I've had 3 long-term relationships in my life, which is true because the only long-term relationships I've had have been the ones I've married. If I'd have said I've had 3 long-term relationships in my life, you wouldn't bat an eye. I wouldn't have the misogynists in my comments wading in with their nasty comments. I got married, and that was my bad. I have no regrets. Like I said, I'm proud of where I am in life. I've had some knocks, but here I am, 59 years old, loving life. I'm single, I'm happily single, I want to remain single. I've realised the advantages of being single. I think my situation is agile. Like I said, I can cut my bills tomorrow if I wanted to. I could buy a house tomorrow. I could buy a houseboat if I wanted to. I'm holding off. I'm not making any decisions on that because right now I'm just settling into this new solo life that I have. I'm bedding in and I'm growing my social media, and that's what I want to continue doing. So yeah, as I said, I don't want to give financial advice to anyone. I guess the purpose of me doing this Importance of Being was to talk about, for me, what being is. And it's not spend, 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 going on shopping sprees to feel better. I feel good buying a Kindle book for myself. That's the stage I am at where I think, oh, that gave me a little dopamine hit buying that Kindle book, and then I'll read that book. It's wonderful. To go to a charity shop and pick up a couple of things that are something like, oh, that's a little dopamine hit. I was never extravagant with clothes. I have two double wardrobes now. One half, a lot is heavy winter coats. I could put them in the attic, and they're small double wardrobes. That's the extent of my clothes now. I'm so over expensive clothes or keeping up with fashions or anything. You see me in the same clothes over and over. I bought this cap. I do love my caps. I bought this when I did my little trip to Bewley recently. That is my little spend things these days. Love it. My camper van travels are, I love as I said, the agileness of my life. I'm home, I go and see my mother, I have my grandson, and then, oh, I've got a little window here. I can just go off in my van, and it's just, and the people I meet. As I said, we were at this, it was a VDub camp or show on the weekend, and just the people you meet there are just so interesting to speak to them. And I love hearing people who are happy, living very simply, off the grid. I really do. I think there's a lot we can learn from people who do this. I think it's a shame the government seem intent on not allowing more people to live in this way. It seems almost barriers are put in your way now. Like I said, it's something I might want to explore myself. But right now, 2026, here is where I am. I've shown you my budget. I've told you what I spend my money on. It might change. Looking to plug the gap with growing my social media income, and then I'm not so reliant on my savings, and they can then be the buffer for my health. As I said, I do invest in my health. It's important to me. After going through a health scare myself, seeing my sister and my mother, having choice with healthcare is important to me. And unfortunately, like I say, the NHS isn't always able to provide the care needed at the time people need it, sadly. So I want to have that buffer for myself and for my close family to offer that. And that's where I want to spend. Don't have to. You know, the NHS will provide at the end of the day for all of us. Meanwhile, look at me. No work, no job. This is my work, talking to you. And what a lovely work it is. I'm so happy to do it. I do love making these videos. I do get bristled with some of the comments. I really do. Not all of them. As I said, vast majority are so supportive and lovely. I think it's been a shock to my system because I've been doing videos on social media for the last 5 years, and initially this channel was all about my Mazda Bongo, so I had a very small viewership, small subscriber count. They were all people with bongos and kind people. I got used to that. Then I started a new channel for my ASMR, and the ASMR and I did TikTok, and the ASMR community generally, not all, a lot of people my age listen as well, but they're generally a younger audience. And because of the nature of ASMR, it's relaxation, they're very respectful. I just don't get trolls on my TikTok or on my other YouTube channel actually. Very, very few nasty comment, very few. I can't really remember the last one. They're generally, yes, people are, can you do this, can you do it? Yes, that's fine. Very nurturing, and a younger crowd. I can tell that by my analytics. I know the age of my ASMR audience is much younger. The age of my channel here now is an older audience, my age. I think I can class this as older, as I'm in that category myself. And I did another video, I'll put that up in the box here, not so long back. I was at Stonehenge and I was umming and ahhing about coming off Facebook because I was feeling all the division and the hate, and I was blaming the media as if it was the algorithm's fault that all these horrible, nasty, fake news were coming up. But it was also the comments from people my age. You know, there seems to be our generation think it's okay to just really say horrible things on social media. And I know there's young people that do that. It's a big generalisation, of course. But it has been a bit of a shock to my system. Now I'm doing this channel with an older range of people listening because it's the topic, the early retirement thing. As I say, majority just wonderful, but there is a certain amount. It's awfully sad to see. I just wish we're so much stronger when we work together, and we can have differing opinions, we can have, wildly different views on the world, but yeah, just turning on each other. I'm so sorry. I might be naive, but yeah, just no place for it really. However, I will say, I can't moan too much because some of the comments, as horrible as they are, they're growing the channel. So in a way, I say thank you to you. But yeah, I hope this video has been helpful. As I say, just pick you up and show you around my beautiful wise oak. It looks so different today, but yeah, somewhere I love to come back to for a little bit of wisdom and grounding. Hope you've enjoyed this video. See you on the next one.